Most people think intermittent fasting is just about skipping breakfast. It isn't. At the 16-hour mark, something remarkable happens inside your body. And once you understand what it actually is, you'll never look at fasting the same way again. I'm going to walk you through the real biology here, not the vague version you see on social media. The actual step-by-step process your body goes through when you stop eating. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why timing your meals the way you do matters so much more than most people realize, especially after 50. Let's start with the switch itself. Your body runs on two fuels, and most of us are stuck on one. Think of your metabolism like a hybrid car. A hybrid can run on gasoline or on its electric battery, whichever is available and most efficient for the situation. Your body works in a remarkably similar way. It can run on glucose, which comes from the carbohydrates and sugars you eat. And it can run on fat, either dietary fat or the fat stored in your body's own tissues. Most of us, because of the way we eat throughout the day, are almost exclusively running on glucose. Breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, afternoon coffee with something sweet, dinner. The fuel pipeline never really closes. Glucose is always available, so your body uses it. And your stored fat, the energy reserve your body has been holding onto, largely stays untouched. This is the core issue. Not that stored fat is bad, but that your body never gets the signal to tap into it. And that signal is the drop in insulin that comes with fasting. The insulin story. Insulin is the gatekeeper. Every time you eat, and I mean every single time, even a small snack, your pancreas releases insulin into your bloodstream to help shuttle glucose from your blood into your cells, where it gets used for energy. Insulin is essential. Without it, that glucose would just sit in your blood, and that's genuinely dangerous. But here's the thing. While insulin is high, fat burning is essentially locked. Insulin signals to your fat cells, "Hold on, we don't need you right now. Glucose is available. Stay stored." When you eat frequently throughout the day, your insulin levels never get low enough to fully unlock your fat stores. You're always in storage mode, or at best, hovering near it. When you fast, insulin falls, gradually at first. Then, as the hours accumulate and your liver works through its remaining glycogen, its stored form of glucose, insulin continues dropping. And somewhere around that 12 to 16-hour window, your body crosses a metabolic threshold. The glucose reserves are running low. Insulin is low. And your body flips the switch. It begins converting stored fat, the fat in your adipose tissue, the fat around your organs, into fatty acids that can be burned directly for fuel. This is the metabolic switch, not a metaphor. An actual, measurable shift in your body's primary fuel source, from glucose to fat. Research published in the New England Journal of Medicine has confirmed that intermittent fasting decreases insulin resistance and reduces oxidative stress and inflammation, all of which are central to why this matters so deeply for metabolic health, particularly as we age. What changes after 50? Here's why this conversation is especially important for those of us on the far side of 50. Our metabolism doesn't operate the same way it did at 30 or 35. Metabolic rate tends to slow with age. Insulin sensitivity, meaning how well our cells respond to insulin signal, typically declines. Mitochondrial function, which is the efficiency of the cellular machinery that actually converts fuel into energy, tends to decrease. And the result is that many people find, despite not eating dramatically more than they ever did, that weight creeps up, energy dips, and things that used to work no longer do. Intermittent fasting addresses several of these changes at the biological level, not just the caloric one. Studies published in Cell Metabolism have shown that fasting stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria, and the enhancement of existing ones. Your cellular engines become more numerous and more efficient. That translates directly to better energy, better metabolic function, and better capacity to handle the fuel your body is burning. There's also the question of metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch smoothly between fuel sources depending on what's available. A metabolically inflexible body struggles to make that transition. It clings to glucose even when glucose is running low, which is part of why some people feel foggy, irritable, or exhausted in the hours before a meal. A metabolically flexible body, one that has been trained through regular fasting to make the shift, handles it far more gracefully. It moves into fat burning the way that hybrid car shifts to its battery. Smoothly, efficiently, without drama. Fasting builds that flexibility, consistently, over time. The human growth hormone piece, alongside the drop in insulin, something else happens during fasting that many people don't know about. Human growth hormone, HGH, rises. And it rises significantly. HGH is often associated with youth and athletic performance, but its role in the body of someone over 50 is equally important. It supports the maintenance of lean muscle mass. It accelerates fat breakdown. It contributes to tissue repair and overall metabolic health. When you eat frequently, HGH is suppressed because high insulin and high growth hormone don't operate well together. But during fasting, with insulin low, HGH has the space to rise. Research suggests that fasting can increase growth hormone levels by several fold compared to a fed state. So, in the fasted state, you have this remarkable combination: insulin falling, fat burning unlocking, and growth hormone rising to support muscle preservation and tissue repair. These aren't separate, unrelated events. They work together. They reinforce each other. And that's why fasting has effects that go well beyond simple calorie reduction. The brain benefits. The story doesn't stop at the waist. One of the most remarkable things that happens during fasting is what occurs in the brain. When your body starts producing more fatty acids and eventually ketones as a byproduct of fat burning, your brain gets access to a cleaner, more efficient fuel source than glucose. But there's more to it than fuel. Fasting increases the production of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as a fertilizer for your brain. It supports the growth and maintenance of neurons, enhances the connections between them, and plays a protective role against the kinds of neurodegenerative changes associated with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. The mental clarity that many people report when they're several hours into a fast isn't a placebo effect. It's a real, measurable biological response to increased BDNF and the shift in fuel supply your brain is experiencing. For those of us over 50, cognitive health is a priority that sits right alongside metabolic health. The fact that the same fasting practice that supports your metabolism also supports your brain is one of the most compelling aspects of what we cover on this channel. The timing question. So if the metabolic switch flips somewhere around the 12 to 16-hour window, when does your fast actually begin? It begins at the moment your last meal or caloric intake ended. Not when you wake up. Not when you decide to skip breakfast. The moment the fuel pipeline closes. This is why the most practical form of intermittent fasting for most people, the 16-8 method, works so naturally. If your last meal is at 8 p.m. and you don't eat again until noon the next day, you've fasted for 16 hours. A good portion of that is sleep. Your body is doing the heavy lifting while you're resting. There is one additional layer to timing that matters enormously, and it connects directly to something we've covered in our After Dark series. When you eat isn't just about the number of fasting hours. It's about where those hours fall in your circadian cycle. Research supports the idea that aligning your eating window with daylight hours, typically from late morning through early evening, works with your body's internal clock rather than against it. Eating late into the night, even within an 8-hour window, can undermine some of the metabolic benefits because your body is biologically preparing for rest and repair during those hours, not digestion. The practical takeaway: earlier eating windows tend to produce better metabolic outcomes. Start eating closer to noon rather than 8 a.m. Finish closer to 6 p.m. rather than 10 p.m. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. What to eat in your window? Now, because this question always comes up, what you eat during your eating window matters. The fasting does the metabolic heavy lifting, but you can either support or undermine it depending on the quality of what you put in during those 8 hours. Foods rich in antioxidants, berries, leafy greens, nuts, help protect your mitochondria from damage. Healthy fats from sources like avocado, olive oil, and fatty fish support metabolic health and provide the kind of slow-burning fuel that serves the fat-adapted system you're building. Adequate protein is non-negotiable after 50 because muscle preservation becomes increasingly important as we age. A standard recommendation is to aim for roughly 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight daily, prioritizing lean meats, eggs, legumes, and quality dairy. The goal isn't to eat as much as possible in your window, or as little. It's to eat in a way that continues supporting everything the fasting period started: the metabolic flexibility, the mitochondrial health, the hormonal balance. Now, I want to pause here for a second, because I'm aware that we've covered a lot of ground in a short time, and there's a version of this conversation that goes much deeper. The practical protocols, the meal timing adjustments, specific to women over 50 versus men over 50. The exercise integration, the troubleshooting when fasting feels hard in the first few weeks. I wrote a book that covers all of that in detail. It's called Intermittent Fasting for Beginners Over 50, and it's on Amazon. Link is in the description. If what we've covered today resonates with you, and you want the complete roadmap, rather than just the science, that's where to go. But let's keep going, because the story isn't finished yet. The bigger picture. Martin is 62 years old. He's retired, and like a lot of people in their early 60s, he'd noticed over the previous decade that his energy wasn't what it used to be, and that the weight he'd always been able to manage was no longer cooperating. He chose the 16-8 method, partly because it didn't require him to overhaul everything he ate, just when he ate it. Over 6 months, he lost 15 pounds. His cholesterol numbers improved significantly, and he reported feeling more consistently energized than he had in years. The switch flipped, and it stayed flipped. That's not magic. That's biology working the way it's meant to work, with the right conditions in place. Intermittent fasting isn't a diet. It's a framework that works with the systems your body already has: the hormonal system, the metabolic system, the cellular repair system. You're not fighting your biology. You're cooperating with it. Call to action. If this sparked something for you, if you're thinking about where fasting fits in your own life, or you've been doing it and now understand why it's actually working, leave a comment below. I read them. Want to know where you are in this process? If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We cover intermittent fasting, metabolic health, the science of sleep, and the way these things connect. The full picture, every week. And if you came here from Monday's short, welcome. I'm glad you're here.